Hey y'all, welcome back to Sex Ed for You, where research meets reality. I am Lauren.
And I'm Holland. I have a Bachelor of Science in Public Health, and I'm the Director of Operations here at Sex Ed for You.
And I am a certified holistic sexuality educator and the owner of Sex Ed for You. Welcome to our podcast.
Where research meets reality. This is the podcast for people who want to date and have great sex that is safe, fun, and enjoyable.
We desire to empower our listeners to make informed decisions that lead to values-based living. Welcome.
Welcome.
So a couple months ago? Yeah. Or weeks?
I don't even know.
A little while ago.
Was when the second part came out.
We did a whole episode on the erotic themes in Bridgerton. But it was prior to Holland and I watching season 3. So we promised you that we'd come back and do this. Now, Holland didn't necessarily love season 3. So she's been putting it off. But I said we have to talk about this.
I don't want to.
We'll talk about the things in season 3 that we observed, liked and didn't like. But then I would love to discuss why we think people are watching this show.
Yep.
Aside from the erotic themes, why has it taken the world by storm? What is it that made now the time for it? Because I love Julia Quinn, the original author. Yeah, I just want to talk about that too, because people love it very, very, very much.
Yep.
It is like, now is its moment.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's start out with this. Why didn't you love season 3 so much, you think?
I felt like, okay, first of all, just from like a cinematic point
First
of
of
view.
all, there's going to be so many spoilers.
so many
So if
spoilers.
you have not watched it, don't listen
Don't
right
listen. From a cinematic point of view, I felt like it was just really different than the other seasons. And I've seen actually a lot of people kind of agree with this, so maybe I'm just following the herd. I don't know. One of the things is that the makeup changed a lot. They put so much makeup on NICOLA Coughlin, who literally does not need it. And they had like acrylic nails, which kind of just took me out. I was like, the hell? Like they'd show her hand with a fucking quill and she's got acrylics on? Are you kidding me? What? That's just like destroys the vibe for me. Like you can have beautifully manicured nails without acrylics on. So there was that.
Okay.
And I don't know. It just felt really different than the other seasons for me. And it just didn't feel cohesive. It felt scattered. They didn't really focus on Luke and Nicola's, Colin and Penelope's love story. I felt like it was more so about like Benedict having threesomes and Francesca. They kind of like smushed all of that in there. And then I loved Francesca's story and I wanted more of that. But then it's like we didn't get enough of anything. I just got like surface level of all of it. It felt like not enough of anyone's real story. I didn't fall in love with really any of the characters. I just didn't really like it. I don't know. It was frustrating. And then my final qualm, the biggest qualm of all of them, is that the whole season was like, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And then the last 20 minutes was when everyone finds out that she's the, whistle down. And that's when she like has the whole thing. It was literally like the last 20 minutes. Like they left it all to the end. It was like, we couldn't have done this earlier. And then had a little bit of like after and their marriage. And then also Daphne and Simon were not there the whole time. They
wasn't
literally
even an appearance.
Yes.
I kept waiting for a Daphne appearance.
She wasn't even at her sister's wedding or her brother's wedding. I'm like, what are you doing? They hate each other at their wedding. That's weird. Colin was not that way in the books. Apparently, I didn't read it, but apparently it's like completely different than the books. I just didn't like it. Why did you like it?
See, I'm a person who loves stories that like don't really go well and where we see the human experience. So I acknowledge that I'm like a weirdo when it comes to some of this. My favorite movies are all like human struggle or... So I really enjoyed that we were seeing her make some really like mistakes, like, and that they were being showcased and that there was, I liked the Colin and she like space. Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this like human ugly.
Yeah.
I really like seeing ugly on screen where you as a viewer are uncomfortable. And I really enjoy seeing the natural consequences of behavior. I think it is good for us as a society to go, yeah, that was mean.
Yeah.
That was deceitful. That was this, that was that. I loved the storyline between her and her mom and how that kind of thing wrapped up.
I did too.
And how she was like, oh, we're not that different. You also were manipulating. We talk about all the time that so many women have had to get ahead through manipulation. And it's as if her character, Penelope's character, had this power as Whistledown. But it was through lying and manipulation and feeding gossip and all of these types of things. I also love that the queen was like, well, can we keep a bit of gossip, that type of thing? Because I also think gossip gets a bad rap. I think that sometimes it's truly life-saving. It's good stuff. But I loved them. Yeah. Why I had to wait till the end, I'm not really sure from a storytelling perspective, because I hope going forward we'll hear more of like how that goes down, because it looks like we will in the future seasons. But I really loved Francesca's story as well, like the oddities of it. I loved the last 20 seconds when then she met the sister and we all saw the spark, and loved that. I know the readers were in a tizzy too, because apparently in the books it's a brother. Yeah. I loved it. Give me some more like
sapphic love.
I love it. Sprinkle the queer all through it. It's so lovely. Yeah. And I'm glad that it's not just Eloise that we're constantly wondering about. And I loved that moment. And I loved, because so many clients that I work with, am I asexual or have I just not explored this type of sexuality that I'm truly into? And that seemed like it too, where she's like, you don't need a love story. And her mother has spent this whole season saying, oh, I'm realizing, which I also thought was really beautiful, because that is true. Some people do have these like, took my breath away moments, and some people don't. Some people are demisexual, and it builds over time with an emotional or mental connection, which I think Francesca was really trying to show us. But then the moment she saw the sister or the cousin and like had that little like breath taken away, couldn't speak moment. It was cool.
It was beautiful.
Why it all had to be in the last episode, I really don't know. I really don't know.
All of the good stuff.
All of the good stuff was at the end. I liked a lot of the repair stuff between Penelope and Eloise, and again the humanness of the whole thing. I don't mind a company piece where a lot of people's stories are important. I did think it was funny, because the Daphne Simon one, totally all about them. Yeah. The Anthony,
it just changed.
All about them. Yeah. This just didn't feel like that as much, which we had all been told this is going to be the Penelope year. And it just didn't. I felt like if I was her, I'd be a little sad, because a lot of other people's stories were still uplifted, which I didn't mind. Also, the guy who led the boxing club, had the gentleman's club. Yeah. And then got the home. I loved their story.
I loved their story.
I loved the ball they threw. Oh, so cool.
Cressida Cowper's story was interesting to me.
See, I liked all the stories.
Yes, but there were just too many.
See, I love a book like that where you're like, and then everybody's stories kind of come together at the end.
But they didn't.
But maybe
they literally threw Cressida Cowper out the window. Homie with the blonde hair disappeared.
Yeah, where'd he go?
I was waiting for him to come save Cressida, because she's being shipped off to Timbuktu.
I thought the aunt was going to come in and be a really cool person, like maybe, really independent woman. And then we were going to get like this really neat little side story.
Would have been great.
I didn't enjoy that. What did you think of the fingering in the carriage scene?
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great. I loved that. That was the best scene, and it all went downhill from there. It literally did. Because even their sex scene on the chaise lounge was not what we wanted. We were promised these sexy scenes.
I know.
And I can't help but think that it's because NICOLA's a bigger woman, and she's beautiful and curvaceous and lovely, and they literally just like didn't show her.
Sheet.
Yes.
Yeah. Which made me mad. Because we've seen in some of the others, we have seen woman on top types of sex. And I'm like, why did we not see that here? Because we should have. We should have seen the outline of the back and the hips, which is totally we have seen of the others.
The passion. It was like there was nothing. It was just weird. The way they did the sex scenes felt entirely different. It felt shameful. it felt, and I do understand that they had sex before marriage, so maybe there was a part of shame there, but I think that honestly should have played into more of the eroticism of that they were breaking laws, the cornerstone of eroticism there, of breaking prohibitions, violating prohibitions.
Good job.
I feel like we should have had that. And instead we got like this rushed, haphazard, not well done scene on a chaise lounge where you don't, and it's not that I want to see, like, it's not that I'm like craving porn, you know, like it's not that. It's that it was done poorly. It didn't show her body in a way that was beautiful. It didn't show their love. It was just, there was no foreplay. It was literally get on the chaise lounge and I'm going to stick my pee-pee in you. I was like, she deserved better than that.
I thought that was going to be the first of the scenes that we saw.
That was the only one.
Yeah. And then that there was going to be one once they had refound, because immediately after this, he finds out she's been lying.
Right.
And he says he's going to marry her because they were intimate. Yeah. Which, whatever, times that works. But I thought we would get to see her in her whistle down power fuck him.
Yep.
And we didn't. And in the other seasons, we have seen the women have like feminine led, like vulva pleasure centered sex, which has been so nice. And we talked about it on the last episode. And I was like, this is okay because we're trying to portray first intercourse. Is it going to hurt or it is going to hurt is always, I hate when that type of verbiage is put in there. If you're going to put that in there, I wish it would just a little more would be like said about, no, let's bring you to orgasm first. So you're nice and moist. And so your body has lubricated and stretched out, and like, go ahead and put in all the other stuff too. Why are you throwing in, talk about a thing that we need to get out of people's minds is that first intercourse is supposed to be painful. Cause then people just, the pain makes our bodies fear.
Cause then you're anticipating that and your body's like, ah. And like Colin's also portrayed as like this man who is worldly and knows how to please a woman. Like that's his whole thing. And I'm like, so you don't know how to make this comfortable for her? Really?
And this whole, I wish we had the puppets up here. This whole like, don't worry, I'm just going to push it in.
Yes.
And then it's going to be better. Literally was working with a client on this last week who had never been told that is not how she needed to get, she said, just get it in there. Let's get this over with, is how she has been approaching sex for 15 years of marriage. And it is shows like this that perpetuate this myth because we don't have comprehensive sex ed somewhere. We are literally given shows like this. And believe me, I don't think the responsibility should be on their shoulders.
No,
I don't.
Entertainment.
But it's so interesting too because I've read Julia Klinn stuff. I wonder if that line really is in the book. We should go look. If any of you know, put it in the comments for us because usually she writes really well for like, and that's why there's fingering and oral and all these things in these stories because she has put it in the books. And just that moment made every sex educator everywhere in the world cringe. Like, oh God.
Because that's just, I mean, let's talk about why, right? Like you don't, it shouldn't be just, especially people who have tilted uteruses, people who have struggled with vaginismus and pain with insertion, like, you can take it slowly, do like little bit by little bit, do fingers first, do, I don't know, dilators. There are so many things you can do first, even just like tiny thrusts, baby thrusts, and then you work up to it. It's not just bonk and then get it over.
And arousal is so amazing, y'all. Okay, so as the body is becoming aroused, yes, the front walls of the vagina are tightening, but that is to elongate the back. And it is not a tightening like a cigar cutter. It is tightening like, ooh, we're going to add more pleasure. The blood is flowing to this area, which is causing stimulation of the clitoris. So if instead bed, we did a beautiful vulva massage, and we did an inner thigh massage, and we relaxed, and we allowed arousal and blood flow and arousal and blood flow. Then what happens is our pain receptors go down. And it's beautiful. I mean, this is why people love a masturbatory practice when they have a headache, because you can literally help get rid of a headache. So if we did like a fun fingering of the vaginal opening, if we really stimulated the G-spot and the Skene's glands and all the stuff, if we played with the perineum, the body is like, oh my God, I want, right? I want to be filled. We can get the body to that point. This idea, this phallocentric idea of sex, that the purpose of sex is to rush that penis into the vaginal opening, is demented. It is literally, I try to tell my partner all the time, can you imagine me just playing with your balls? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, my clitoris is up here. Like, yes, I have bulbs that go around the opening of my vagina. I have my legs of my clitoris that extend all the way back into my pelvic bowl. But like, when we ignore the clitoris, we are literally not even bringing pleasure to the person with the vulva.
Yep.
So no, this phallocentric thing of like, oh, now we're one. Yes, it can feel lovely to be filled once there's arousal, because the clitoris has engorged itself and is amazing and gets erect just like a penis. But to ignore that part when we're doing a first intercourse, I'm like, it's 2024. Let's do better.
Yes.
Like, let's do better, which they had done with the fingering.
Yes.
Hooray.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I loved the little, when he like pulled it up without his middle fingers. That was funny.
That was great. People are talking about that everywhere. Yes. It's really hot. And that's what we need to see. If you are experiencing pain with penetration, you don't need to be. You don't need to be. This myth that it should be painful or something women just get through is bullshit. As Holland was saying, lots of us have our uteruses sit differently in our body, which means that our cervix, which is like the little thing inside of you that you could feel if you stuck your fingers in, which most of my clients are like, what? But you can feel it. It sits not that high in your body. Depending on the location of your uterus, if you're tilted this way, up and down, or this way, you're going to need to allow for arousal, and things like pillows, things like different positions will be wonderful for you. And no one should ever just endure penetrative intercourse in a position that's uncomfortable.
Yep.
You just don't need to do it. Throw it out the window. It's not the position for you. I know that she was on her back in this sex scene, and so many women have seen women be sexed on their back with their legs spread.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Don't do it. Yeah, I loved the carriage fingering scene. I liked that on the chaise lounge he was fingering. I liked that part. I do. I just hated the talking about pain.
And acting like it was normal. Yes. It's the normalization of it that really irks me.
And then the like, we're just going to push into you and then everything's going to be better. But again, entertainment shouldn't feel like they need to be sexuality educators. It's just that we have no other forms of sexuality education.
Yeah, and that's where the problem comes into play.
But
that's why we're here.
That's what we do. That's why we do it. Anyway, I thought it was a good season. I can totally see your angles. And I, from a makeup standpoint, kind of loved the changes to the makeup this year. I thought it was really interesting how dewy they made everybody. Like, my God, we were like dewy. Yeah. I hadn't noticed the nails, so that's really funny. Yeah, I hadn't noticed that the nails were different than the years before, the previous seasons. I was also like, where are Daphne and Simon? I know contractually, like, you've got to contract everybody, but anyway, I just thought it was funny.
Apparently that actor, Simon's actor, is just doing something else. But still, like, not being there for the weddings felt really incongruent to me.
They didn't even say something? Usually they'll work something in.
Yeah, and they tried. I think they mentioned that they didn't want to because they were like, they didn't want to take away from the story. But I was like,
you should mention it. We all know them.
We all them. That's how we got here. Like, that was the reason that we're so entranced, is because of Simon and Daphne's story.
Well, and Anthony and Kate had a whole moment like talking with Colin. Yeah, so it just kind of would have made sense to have Daphne and Simon.
And Daphne gives such good advice. She was such a great, wise sister. I don't know.
That's funny.
She could have been, I think, really important. Can we talk about Benedicked?
Yeah, the threesomes. Yes, we can. I liked all that part too.
I loved it.
And I loved how I kept telling Trey, like, oh, this woman is catching feelings. Like,
Yeah.
oh, Miss Empowered Woman. I kept telling Trey, do you see her faces? And he was like, no. And I was like, something's going on here. Either she's uncomfortable with the lack of attention on her. I thought we were going to get to like jealousy, and that was going to be a cool combo. But I was like, watch her faces. Like, the actor is making such interesting choices. She is disgruntled by something, and I don't know what it is. I liked the whole thing.
I did too. I loved how it started, okay? Because we have Benedict on like the terrace, right? With this man. What was his name? Michael? No. Anyway, so Benedict and Mystery Man are on like the terrace, and I caught like there was chemistry there.
Yeah,
I was like,
there was.
ooh, they might kiss.
Hadn't he been with men in season 1?
No, he had seen his artist friend with men. There was definitely like a
bi
he
vibe,
seemed
I thought.
interested,
Yeah.
for sure. But in the first
When he went to
season-
art school, yes?
yes,
Okay.
it wasn't like, it was like this art group of
Yeah,
people, and they
that's
like
sexy.
all did art together, and then they all had sex afterwards. But he had sex with 2 women, and it was the artist's wife
That's
and then
right.
someone else.
I need to go back and watch season 1 because I had forgotten about it
Right.
until all of this. And I was like, this is not his first time.
No, but he saw the artist having sex with a man, and it like piqued his interest for sure.
Okay, but he didn't.
He
I thought
didn't.
had. Okay.
No, and then this.
Then I was like, liar.
wrong. No, in this one, they were on the balcony, and there was definitely some chemistry, like some heated
It was
chemistry.
beautifully done.
Yes. And then when he saw them kiss, and he like ran away because they asked him to join, and he was like, I actually have to be somewhere.
It was really cute.
But I thought they dealt with it well.
I thought they dealt with the whole thing well. I think they epitomized kind of this. We were talking on the last episode about kind of polyamory not being displayed really well, or consensual non-monogamy, and I felt like they like basically defined the type of consensual non-monogamy they were practicing and why they liked it, and why it worked for them, and invited him to join, didn't make any pressure to join, but said it would be lovely. And then I thought those scenes were nice.
And I felt like it was so realistic too, like seeing Benedict trying to like suss out what is their relationship at that dinner, and like the other man who's like protective over her but in a friend way, but you can tell there's more.
Oh, yeah.
It was so realistically done, and I thought it was so beautifully done, and it was actually super consensual and lovely. And and then when they actually began having sex, like the first time that they had sex and the 2 boys kissed, I was like, oh my God, I love queer representation. It made me so happy, especially with men. I feel like there's so much more of a stigma with boys kissing boys.
Me too.
And so it just made me so happy that in this show we saw male love.
You know how earlier you were like, I mean, I didn't want porn with I felt like I wanted so much more from that scene. And Trey turned to me and was like, babe, like you're just wanting porn. And I was like, no, I wanted so much more. Just because.
From the threesome scene?
Yeah.
Really? I felt like we got like a lot. I felt like we got a
That's
lot.
what he said too. And I was like, I just wanted more. I had been waiting for it so much.
Yeah, babe, you wanted porn.
I guess so. I just thought it was really beautiful. And I think I was just so in the moment that I wanted to see more, and I think that was good. Like, not from a porn. I just was so wrapped up in their story, and I thought it was really fun. And then, when I loved that she sat down, he comes in, he starts like undressing and is ready for just a sexual encounter, and she spoke up for herself and said, this is how I'm feeling now, and I need to tell you. And I thought that was lovely. And then he got to say, like, you showed me freedom for the first time ever. And sometimes that happens, my friends.
It does.
I was literally just reading a section in Polysecure where she says that it often happens that somebody comes into this world and it shows them something about themselves, even if that's that monogamy is better for them. Sometimes, though, it's the other way. And so just interesting to see in a season. People have different needs, and needs change depending upon the people in your life at the moment. That's okay. That doesn't mean one thing failed.
No.
That means you learned and grew and evolved.
You're collecting data.
Yeah, beautiful. And it doesn't mean we need to stay the same forever. No.
And I love that because she changed too, clearly. Like,
Clearly.
getting feelings in that way. She literally said, it was so beautiful. Like, thank you for showing me that my heart can love.
Yes.
And so I think that was such a beautiful perspective too, of like, she didn't get angry at him because she did show him that. She did show him this lovely world of consensual polyamory and threesomes and just like more than what he had ever really opened his mind to. And then she said, thank you. Like, I now know. I think sometimes that's all it takes too, is like, because she's a widow. I don't know if she loved her past husband. I don't remember. But like,
Or she pushed him down the stairs to get rid of him.
who knows? And this time, could be anything. But it was so beautiful to see her, because I think it could just also take that special person to reopen your heart. And then Benedict, probably is not her person. I don't know how the next season goes.
Yeah, because is he next in line for a
I think
story?
so, but I don't think it's her. I think it's someone else.
I liked it too, because Polly Secure is talking about that so much of the data that we have continually tries to say that non-monogamy is a form of insecure attachment. That if you could just heal your soul, you would choose monogamy as your primary preferred way of living.
Why is that the default?
Right, because pathologizing people. And I loved this, that she wasn't like, oh, I've been broken and trying to fill my life with sex, but you have shown me, and like, I need you, and it didn't become them, and I see sex was the bad thing. I was empty.
Yeah.
It was, you have shown me this thing. You have given me a gift, which I think we're all giving and receiving gifts all the time. And then she was like, wow, she didn't ask him to be it for her.
No.
She allowed it to be if he wanted it. But then he said, oh my goodness, but what you've given me is freedom. And she loved that for him.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I
really liked this season.
No, I
like that moment was beautiful. I don't know if we'd seen something like that depicted, because I think we show, especially for women, dating around is like the whorish thing.
Yeah.
And then you're going to find your man and you're going to become a Madonna.
Yeah.
But she said that this whole thing healed some of her. She felt feelings again.
Yeah.
She felt that her heart could soften. Yeah. And she didn't say, and now I only want monogamy forever. No. She acknowledged, ooh, I want something different. We talked about this on that podcast where I said my casual sex partner in New York, the sex was good. I was just wanting something else.
Right.
And that's what I felt like she was realizing too. And I thought it was really cool for people to see.
I think my qualms aren't with the storylines. My qualms are with the way it was made,
and
the production.
I hear you.
Because even with his scenes and his love scenes with these people, they were poorly placed. I felt like they were poorly placed. We would go from seeing like,
oh, Trey and I would die. We'd be like, were they just having sex for 4 hours, or all day?
It was just
made no sense.
horribly
that
timed.
Actually, made no sense.
And then, okay, this is another one of my favorite scenes when Mrs. Featherington has to teach Philippa what sex is.
Yeah, that was great.
She said, we just kiss a little, and then he goes and changes his pants.
It was the best. And I loved that part.
I do too.
That they're both so ignorant as to anything.
Yeah, and Mrs. Featherington is like, why don't you know this? And I'm like, girl, that was your job. Babes, who the hell else was going to tell her?
And then that the men didn't. I kind of loved their husbands. I love that whole little dynamic.
So
They're hilarious. And like the way they wander around and follow them and are very supportive of them.
Yes.
Like both of them.
Yeah.
It's
Mr.
cute.
Mr. Finch, I love to think that Mr. Finch would just respected his wife Philippa so much that he didn't
was
want to
not
have
gonna
sex with
pressure
her.
her.
No, he was
neither
like,
of them
until
were.
she's ready. That was the sweetest thing. And then whenever they got pregnant, and I love that they both got pregnant at the same time.
Too. And then I love that there's these mini conversations going on about how they're going to be cast out of society. See, this is another reason why I really love this season, is we did a lot of women's rights discussions of the voice that women get, the rights that women have at that time. And there's like a lot of subtext through this whole season, which is why I liked all the different storylines, right? Whether it was, Penelope's or her sisters or crazy hair.
Prudence? Cressida.
Cressida. All of these women dealing with the same types of things.
Right.
Like their voice and their power and their rights were being stripped constantly. And we were looking at it from all these different angles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the women talking about their pregnancies and how they're going to be cast
and
from
how
society.
they all wanted a boy.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we have to have a boy so that the fortune isn't taken away from us.
Yeah, that was so sad.
There's a lot of dynamics happening. I just feel like I keep finding new pieces of it. There's a lot.
Which I so hear what you're saying too, that there were so many storylines going on at the same time that makes it hard to take in. There wasn't as strong of a through line.
But they were all beautiful stories. I think I appreciated all of them. I just didn't like the production. Sorry, production team.
I need to go read the series. I haven't read the series because I've really enjoyed the shows, which this could segue us into the next piece. Like, why are people enjoying the shows?
Right.
I've read a lot of Julia's other things, but I didn't want to spoil. Like, I was like, well, at this rate, I'm really enjoying. I don't want to ruin the rest of it for me, but I could go back and read the first 3 so far. Because I wonder if this one was just really rich. Like, why did it feel so much more haphazard than some of the other ones?
I don't know. Yeah.
I liked the ball scenes in this one. I really liked the set dressing and the way we got to see those types of things.
The music was delightful. It's always. So I love that she got fingered to Pitbull. Who doesn't want to get fingered to Mr. Worldwide?
So good. Sometimes I like closed captioning because I'm an old lady.
Me too.
Okay.
I also use closed captioning.
Sometimes it would say the wrong song, which was weird.
That was weird.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It was a Taylor Swift song at one point, and it said something else.
It said like Lady Gaga, I'm pretty sure.
I was like, why is it saying
that's
this? We all know
incorrect.
whose song this is. Anyway, why do you think, in your brilliant opinion, people are enjoying Bridgerton of all genders, of all relationship structures? Because I have clients being like, my wife doesn't like any show like this, and she loves this. Or I have clients who say, this was my show, and then my husband started watching with me, and now I'm mad.
It's like the meme where they're like watching from the stairs.
That exact thing happened to
and
a
then
client.
all of a sudden they're like sitting on the couch, and they're like, so who is this person? That's my favorite thing.
Yep, that's exactly what happened in my house. I started watching while Trey was in the shower, and then he came out and tried to pretend to not be interested.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't keep watching without him. He'd be like, no, I want to see that episode. Anyway, so why do you think the world is
I feel like there's
transfixed?
so many reasons. Obviously, it's going to be nuanced, and like every different person has a different reason. But majority, it's showing dedication in a way that we don't see very often. It's showing passion and like just outright desire in a really unique way. It's different than other shows. It's just, and there's so many more obstacles, and we've got, the cornerstones of eroticism that tell us give people an obstacle and they'll just want to overcome that bitch. And so I think that that's a lot of what's happening. So there's just so many societal obstacles. I think part of it is that we're like, maybe thank God we don't live in this society. So there's a lot of things. What do you think?
I liked the pursuer thing because I was just reading something the other day about the distancer pursuer dance and how we're all kind of like finding people that kind of either distance themselves so we can pursue or pursue us so we can fall into our pattern of distancing, and that it's subconscious, but we're all kind of doing this thing. And I think we all love storylines like that. And so I think a lot of that, good old fashioned like romantic pursuit is showed. And I think without it being in this time period, we'd all roll our eyes and be like, how archaic, right? Like that's outdated. But we get to see it here. And I think we all kind of love it a little bit. I think we all kind of love a written letter and expressing our feelings. A lot of like feelings being expressed or like suppressed. Obstacles out the wazoo. So many obstacles. That Jack Moran's erotic equation of attraction plus obstacle equals excitement. And so I think we have a lot of those. I think historical dramas are really interesting. So what I am trying to figure out is like, why now? Why is this like, is it the Regency era that this is a part of? why is it that people are liking this? My musical theater nerdy self is like, people love a costume. Like, people love to dress up and pretend. And maybe we're in a period of time where we have finally let go of like some of the silliness, and we can just let ourselves embrace that a little bit more. I'd love to think that we're just a more tolerant and accepting and open society now, and that we are okay. Because my question is, why as a society are we all so okay with this, right? They're doing parties. They have the whole, like, you can go to a Bridgerton experience and wear a gown.
Yep.
And we're so okay with this right now. And I love it. I am here for it. We all need to embrace playfulness and embrace creativity. And maybe it hit at a great time of kind of going through a global pandemic altogether and just needing some joy and some sparkle and light. Maybe.
The first season, I think, really drew me in because I loved the dynamic of Daphne. I felt like she just was so sure of herself. And then we saw, you know, the slip and fall of what happens when passion overcomes you in that time. And we saw her battling her true desires versus what she thinks she should do. Like, I think I just identify with that a lot. So there is that. But the first season is what drew us in. So what is it about the first season?
I do think Julia writes strong female characters.
Yeah.
So I think for all of those people in male bodies who watch our podcast who are like, why would women like this? Yes, people are dressing up in frilly clothes, but these women are written strongly. And Shonda Rhimes directs strong women characters really well. And so they may be a product of their times, but these are strong women.
Yeah.
And it is neat to see that. I enjoyed that in the very beginning. And every one of Shonda's like pieces that she's ever worked on, I appreciate how she lets women act. What to do. So I think that's one of the things that drew me into the first season. The family dynamic.
Yeah.
I adore the family dynamic. And we haven't really mentioned that, but I wonder if that, even Violet Bridgerton's whole story and how she loves her children, I wonder, it's going to make me teary. I wonder if a lot of us crave that and just love it, this kind of being a part of a family. That it's sluttiness and sex and romance and pursuit, but also like it's love.
Sense of belonging for sure. I think she really does such a beautiful job as a mother.
Oh my God.
It's what a great mother figure. The way she truly just deeply loves her children and wants the best for them. And she doesn't, I think Violet's so different than all of the other mothers, especially Mrs. Featherington, where Violet wants love for her children.
She's constantly talking about her love matches. Yeah.
And like those are supposed to be rare in this era. And I think they're trying to remind us of that in this season, this third season, because they often are saying like love matches are supposed to be rare. And we're just so used to, we're seeing only the Bridgerton perspective where like, no, they're really only getting married if they're in love. But they had that as a privilege. That is not something that everyone is afforded. I mean, look at Prudence. Prudence doesn't love her husband. That's a little bit gay husband, at least in my personal opinion. He seems a little, but the dark-haired husband, they don't really love each other, but like
they're a match for convenience.
Yes.
And she needed to be matched.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you have a shelf life almost as a woman in this society. And so it's cool to see Violet encouraging her kids to really, really lean into like what you want and what you love. And then seeing Violet want her garden to be gardened.
Okay. We haven't even talked about that part, her like blossoming love romance in this season. I really liked this season. I really like the thing that's going on. Yeah, between her and Lady Danbury as like she's trying to get to know her brother and it's creating this rift, and then they have that random healing moment that we only know about from the Queen Charlotte season or whatever, where you're learning about Lady Danbury's relationship with Violet's father. I mean, and you get a little nod to it in this season, and That was beautiful.
I loved that.
That was intense. But I do think that a lot of us are drawn to the Bridgertons as this imperfect, rambunctious, loved like in a deep soul level. And I think Violet's character carries us through that whole thing.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, the absence of a father.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important just piece of this Bridgerton family, because Anthony is the one who's expected to be like the man of the house, but he's gone for most of this season. So like Violet again is a strong woman, and she is just, I mean, she's the head of household and she's fucking awesome at it. Like she's so good at it. So it's really impressive to see her just come into her power and then also realize that she deserves love. Like seeing her find rest in this man is so comforting and joyful.
What do they both need? They both say, like, basically, you need to get some things in order.
Right.
It reminds me of the your work, my work, our work.
Yes, it really does.
And they both just kind of acknowledge it as grown-ups, right? Basically, she is saying, I am not getting together with you if your sister and you are not in good terms, because I will not lose. Oh, my goodness, that whole thing that's like, I will not lose you.
Yes.
I'm obviously about to start menstruating. Everything's, like, about to make me cry. I'm like, oh, my God.
Me too.
That scene... amazing, right? Like if he so much as hurts you, and she's like, they work through that, and then she's like, but you won't lose me. Like that's not happening no matter what happens.
Womanhood.
Yes. But her saying to him, get it together with your sister, because this is not okay. And then her saying, basically, I've got to get all my kids figured out right now. I don't have space for this. I don't have capacity. I know my limits. Just beautiful. And then kind of the kids being okay with it too. Yeah, that whole side
I love it.
piece was amazing.
I really want to see them. I know we're not ever going to get this, but I really want to see them in the off season. I want to see like what are their normal lives like, because we're only seeing them during the like dating season.
Yeah.
When they're all in the ton. I want to see what their daily lives are like, because this is only supposed to be like 3 months of the year.
Yeah.
What is the rest of the year like?
It's like, I want to see.
I want to see the whole picture.
Yeah. No, but I think that there are so many reasons we're drawn to it. So family, romance, I love that. The pursual, the kind of like old-fashioned nature of what does it mean to pursue what you really want, right? Your desire. And yeah.
There's a competition aspect too.
Yeah, there is. There is. And I think we love that as humans. I think we're all loving costumes right now. We're all loving, I think, the way that they do the set decoration. Oh, you know what I love? The fact that race does not matter in this show.
Yep.
It is just sprinkled, and I love it.
Did you watch Queen Charlotte?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I think, if you haven't watched Queen Charlotte, I think that is like so important for context, because they do explain like there was a rift. There was a struggle between black and white people. And I mean, obviously. And so in that season, in that show, you're introduced to how this came about and how they have a black queen and they have interracial marriage. And like, it was controversial at a time. And I think it's beautiful to see and also be reminded of that, because it's important for us to be reminded that we have both come a long way and also not come a long way. And so I think it's a really important social piece for one, but it's also great context for the Bridgerton series.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen Queen Charlotte, I think it's really important that you watch it.
It puts everything into perspective for sure. And I think so many of us are used to these types of period dramas being literally only Caucasian people walking around. And it is lovely that it is not that at all. And it is beautiful. Like black joy is throughout all of these stories, and it is celebrated, and I love it.
I do too.
I so love it. I think there's probably many more pieces. Maybe people can put in the comments too why they think people are drawn to Bridgerton, because I do think it's kind of like of the times, right? Historical romance novels have been written for a very long time. This is not like...
It's not new.
Julia just wrote these. Nope. They've been around for a while. And yeah.
If you like this show, if you like Bridgerton, Y'all have to watch Reign, Reign. It's about Mary, Queen of Scots. It is one of my favorite all-time shows. I rewatch it all the time. It's a period piece about France in like the 1400s. And it's incredible. It is life-changing. I'm obsessed with it. It's 3 seasons. It is a formative part of my childhood. And if you like this, you will like that. So I'll link it below. Don't worry.
They're my favorite. These are all core erotic themes for me. Type of historical romances for sure. So, yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff.
Any other closing thoughts?
Thank God for period pieces and Netflix's production team.
And go into it, people. Do not feel shame. Do not feel shame. Also remember, fantasy is different than reality. And like, just because your partner may be into this doesn't necessarily mean that they want to dress up in a period outfit and have you finger them in the back of the car. Doesn't mean it. Now, you could play with it in your mind, for sure. I did get a nightgown that I think I've talked about on here before that is absolutely reminiscent of a shift that you would wear a long time ago. And I wear it sometimes and I feel very sexy, which is hilarious because I look like I'm wearing muumuu. But it brings me joy. It doesn't mean, though, that what we're into in fantasy needs to like be acted out. So also please like take a chill pill if your like partner is super into watching these and you're like, oh my gosh, is this what they want? Do I need to go get a cravat?
I need to go get a corset
and some tails and like a top hat. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. If they express interest in going to a Bridgerton experience, maybe celebrate it with them. They could feel celebrated in their likes. That would be fun.
But no, it's not necessarily that they want to be in this period. It's just core erotic themes. It's that the storytelling is beautiful, the direction is beautiful. It's just lovely. Okay, like.
Yeah, and I think we need to see lovely things sometimes. Just like we like looking at a pond. It is beautiful. I think there's a lot of television out there that are murder documentaries and stressful things and thrillers and that great, wonderful. It's really nice sometimes just to watch something that like calms our cortisol. And thank God,
everybody's gonna be okay at the end.
Yeah. I mean, there might be a tragedy or something, but not really.
Yeah. I like that it is the kind of show where you can sit and tell yourself like, no, it's not that kind of show. Like it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
That phrase.
They're not going to kill the lead.
No. Like I can settle in and like, I don't need to be worried because I know that it's all going to be okay because it's not that kind of show.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's not that many shows right now like that. Aside from like Hallmark pieces.
No, because I'm also watching like, House of the Dragon right now. That's stressful as fuck. Sometimes I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Because there was just a spoiler. Child was murdered in the last one. And it's like, Yeah, we've watched like Jack Reacher and some of these types of things, which I love because they do the opposite thing. They like hype your adrenaline. But yeah, you don't sleep well afterwards. No, you're not calmed. You're not like, how lovely.
Bridgerton is like calming to you, which is, it's really sweet. It reminds me of when like the Sense and Sensibility movies and Pride and Prejudice and all this type of thing were a big thing to watch. Ooh, here would be a fun thing to ask a partner who's really into this. Like, does this remind you of anything else that you used to love? That would be a fun, let me get to know you more question because it does call back to sleepovers with friends where I would watch period pieces and dramas or books that I read as a young person. And that would be a beautiful way to get to know a partner more.
Right.
Of, does this call you back to a time, a more simpler time, more
is there
like,
nostalgia?
Yes. And that, again, it doesn't mean that one is like longing for that time or it just would be a cool nugget to know more about. Like, ooh, tell me more about that. What did you do with your friends? Would you have sleepover? Yeah, it just could be a really fun conversation. And yeah, we miss out on those types of things sometimes because we just roll our eyes and we say that there's girl TV and boy TV. No. And I'm liking that. I am liking that I'm hearing from female-bodied clients that their male partners are infringing on their Bridgerton time. I'm like, good. It's good for them to see this. It's good for them to watch you get horny. I think another thing is I've had people surprised at how turned on they were by these things. And we already talked about that on the last episode, the core erotic themes. totally work with that. It doesn't mean that anything is lacking in your relationship. It means that so many of us have responsive desire, and we are seeing sexually relevant material, and it is allowing us to go to a place that feels like the sex isn't something you do, sex is someplace you go. And it's like, oh, I could have that too.
Yeah.
We can.
How exciting. I love Bridgerton for so many reasons.
There's so many reasons. I think that's a good little wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, you can submit for a free consult. You can go to sexedforyou.com/free consult and tell us why you would like a free consult. And I might say yes. And then you have 15 minutes to decide if you two will work well together.
We might not.
If not, we'll recommend you a colleague. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at sex_ed_for_you. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me at admin@sexedforyou.com. These are our opinions and our lived experiences. This is literally a fictional show. So if you don't like what we say, I have great news for you. You don't have to listen to us. It's this beautiful thing called autonomy. So thanks so much for listening. If you choose to, we love you guys. We love your support. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.